So imagine trying to solve the global climate crisis by building thousands of massively power-hungry cell towers
Yeah.
and dedicating just vast amounts of energy to run these complex artificial intelligence algorithms.
Right, yeah, it sounds totally counterproductive.
Like trying to put out a fire with a bucket of gasoline.
Yeah, exactly.
Yet that is the exact paradox that a major global economy is currently throwing, billions of euros at in this desperate race against time. Welcome to today's deep dive, where we are looking at something really fascinating.
It's honestly a situation that forces us to confront a very uncomfortable reality about our modern infrastructure.
Yeah.
We tend to view technology as this friction-free utopia. Right? Buy the new gadget, it's faster, it's sleeker.
And it magically solves your problems without any environmental cost.
Exactly. But when you look at national scale engineering, that glossy illusion completely vanishes.
And that tension is exactly why we are digging into this today. We are unpacking a really fascinating stack of sources that read like a blueprint for the future.
A very ambitious future.
Oh, totally. We've got official French government frameworks on ecological planning, a deeply critical 2024 EU Digital Decade Report Card, technical press releases from Ericsson detailing their 6G rollout, and updated 2026 records tracking the sweeping transformations of France's digital agencies.
Which collectively reveal a nation attempting something unprecedented. I mean, France is trying to completely rewire itself technologically to hit a dual mandate.
Right, the green transition and digital sovereignty.
Yes, total environmental sustainability and absolute digital sovereignty, meaning zero reliance on foreign tech giants.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the sheer scale of the ambition here is wild. How does a country balance the massive computing power required for modern AI and 6G with strict environmental goals?
Well, before any cables get laid, they published this digital and data action framework for ecological planning.
Yeah, the blueprint.
Exactly. And tucked inside that framework is a manifesto that is surprisingly blunt. It's incredibly rare for a government technology framework to lead with pessimism.
Yeah, they usually just promise the moon, right?
Right, but their manifesto explicitly acknowledges that digital technology is not neutral. They outright say that simply building more tech actually worsens climate change in the short term.
Wow. So they aren't sugarcoating the carbon footprint of data centers or, mining rare earth metals.
And not at all. But they justify it as a necessary risk. To track biodiversity decay, or to manage sudden water crises, or dynamically route power across a renewable energy grid, you need immense data processing capabilities.
There is this one quote in the framework that really stuck with me. They wrote, "To inaugurate the ship is to inaugurate the shipwreck, and digital technology comes with its own set of real risks."
Yeah, that phrase actually originates from the philosopher Paul Virilio.
Oh, interesting.
And using it as a guiding principle completely shifts their approach. They are accepting that every new technology inherently invents its own disaster.
Right, like the invention of the car is the invention of the car crash.
Exactly. The invention of the internet is the invention of the cyber attack.
Right.
But they're arguing that the ship still needs to launch if we want to navigate the climate crisis.
Which really flips the traditional Silicon Valley model on its head. Instead of move fast and break things, France is prioritizing this concept they call sobriety alongside ethical design.
Right. They don't want to maximize data collection. They want to minimize waste.
And to pull that off, they are leaning heavily into what they call public platform logic.
What's fascinating here is how that logic essentially reimagines the role of the state in the digital age.
Yeah, the analogy they use in the framework makes so much sense if you think about city governance.
Oh, the city planner one.
Yeah. If you are a city planner, you don't build every single coffee shop and apartment building yourself, right?
Well, of course not.
You build the fundamental infrastructure, the paved roads, the underground sewers, the electricity grid, and you set the strict zoning rules. In this digital equivalent, a French government is building the basic tech infrastructure, the secure identity portals, and establishing the ethical rules of the road.
Leaving the private sector and civil society to build the actual houses, so to speak.
Exactly. They build the specific digital services and apps for citizens on top of that foundational public grid.
It ensures that every app is forced to connect to a secure, ethically regulated sovereign foundation.
So they have this beautifully articulated green philosophy and a clever structural plan, but they immediately run into a physical brick wall.
The infrastructure problem.
Yeah, you cannot map coastline recessions in real time or optimize a national energy grid on a dial-up connection. You need massively robust, high-speed infrastructure. So how do they resolve the tension between needing hyper-fast 6G networks and wanting to shrink their carbon footprint?
By heavily investing in the physical wiring of the nation, but fundamentally changing how that wiring operates.
Okay, how so?
Well, looking at the EU Digital Decade Report Card from 2024, France has been quietly dominating its infrastructure targets. Their 5G coverage reached 93.2%.
Which hit EU targets 5 years ahead of schedule, right?
Exactly. And they achieved the highest share of fixed broadband over 1 gigabit per second in the entire European Union. It's sitting at over 51%.
Yeah, that massive high-speed broadband initiative, the France Très Haut Débit plan, really paid off for them.
It did. But
Exactly. You just said they're using artificial intelligence to manage the network. AI is globally famous for requiring massive and incredibly power-hungry data centers. Using AI to save energy on a 6G network sounds like, I don't know, buying a private jet to fly to a climate conservation rally.
it does sound completely contradictory.
How does that possibly result in a net reduction of energy?
Well, you have to look at the mechanics of a traditional cellular network. Historically, mobile networks broadcast a static amount of radio frequency energy almost constantly.
Okay.
A cell tower blasts a signal at maximum capacity, regardless of whether 10,000 people in a stadium are live streaming video, or it's 3 a.m. on a Tuesday and literally no one is connected.
Oh, wow. So it's like leaving every single light on in a massive office building overnight just in case one person decides to walk down a hallway.
That's a perfect way to put it. So what the AI does in Intention 6G is predictive and dynamic management. It learns hyperlocal traffic patterns and user intents,
User intents meaning what?
like predicting when and where data will be needed before it's requested. The AI allows the network to essentially put microsectors of the radio access network, the actual antennas, communicating with your phone to sleep
To sleep for how long?
for milliseconds at a time, thousands of times a second during those microscopic lulls in traffic.
Okay, so the AI acts as a hypervigilant light switch, turning the network off and on faster than humanly possible.
Precisely. And because it's doing this across thousands of towers nationwide, the energy saved at the macro level vastly outweighs the energy cost of the AI running the calculations.
That is wild.
And that dynamic optimization is why the EU report explicitly praises France as a leader in twinning the digital and green transitions. They are actively monitoring the life cycle carbon footprint of their telecom sector rather than just building bigger antennas.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. So France is building this hyper-fast green AI-managed network, but who owns the software running on it?
Right, the sovereignty issue.
Exactly. The government realized a glaring vulnerability. You can build the greenest network on Earth, but if all your critical state data is flowing through servers controlled by foreign tech monopolies,
You don't actually control your own destiny.
right, they argue that without digital sovereignty, you cannot have ecological sovereignty.
And that realization triggered a massive systemic push to just kick out the foreign giants. The vanguard of this movement is DINUM.
The Interministerial Directorate for Digital Affairs?
Right. And according to their 2026 records, DINUM is actually undergoing a massive transformation this coming May into a new entity called Ariane.
Which will operate as a fully empowered AI and digital authority.
Exactly. And this isn't just an administrative rebrand. It is a reaction to intense geopolitical pressure.
Like what?
Well, if you're running a European government right now, you are looking at the U.S. Cloud Act,
Oh, right.
which essentially compels American tech companies to hand over data to U.S. authorities regardless of where in the world that data is physically stored.
That makes using American cloud providers a massive security risk for foreign governments.
A huge risk. And then add in the April 2025 Liberation Day tariffs, which slapped 25% duties on technology components imported into Europe.
So the environment just became incredibly hostile to relying on non-European technology. The financial and security costs simply became too high to ignore.
Right. So in April 2026, DINUM made a monumental announcement. They are ditching Microsoft Windows entirely across government systems.
Which is a huge deal.
A massive deal. They're moving state workstations to Linux. They are building a proprietary operating system called Securix.
Based on NixOS. Right?
Yes, paired with a desktop environment called Bureautiques. And they didn't stop at operating systems. By September 2025, they mandated that all public administrations must abandon apps like WhatsApp and Telegram.
In favor of Tchap.
Right, a secure open-source messaging app built by the state.
And they are extending that same sovereign philosophy into artificial intelligence, too. They launched the Albert API, which allows government agencies to securely utilize open source models like France's own Mistral, rather than relying on OpenAI.
Yeah, and they even launched a project called Compare.ia, which is a chatbot arena where everyday citizens blindly compare AI responses.
I found that detail so fascinating. By having French citizens choose which AI response they prefer, they are actively building a massive database of French language preference data.
Teaching the AI cultural nuances and local context.
Yeah, rather than just translating an American model's worldview, it is an incredibly ambitious roadmap. But let's look at the reality on the ground for a second.
The friction of actual implementation.
Yes, because as of April 2026, this grand sovereign Linux deployment Securix is currently running on a grand total of 250 workstations within DINUM itself.
That's it.
250 computers out of the entire French government apparatus. It instantly reminded me of the city of Munich back in 2004.
Or the Linux project.
Yeah. They launched Linux, a highly publicized project to move the entire municipal government off Microsoft and onto Linux. It took over a decade, caused massive operational headaches, users hated it, and by 2017, they completely abandoned it and crawled back to Microsoft.
Yeah, it is notoriously difficult to rip out ingrained corporate tech.
So I am genuinely curious how they overcome that user friction this time. What is different with Securix?
History certainly validates your skepticism. Retraining thousands of non-technical staff, dealing with legacy software. The institutional friction is immense. But it comes down to how the underlying technology operates today versus 20 years ago.
Okay.
Securix isn't just a basic Linux installation. It is built on a framework called NixOS, which utilizes declarative configuration.
Okay, we need to translate that for those of us who don't spend our weekends compiling code. What does declarative configuration actually mean in practice?
Think of it like a digital time machine combined with a perfect, immutable recipe.
A time machine recipe. I like it.
In a traditional system, like Windows running Active Directory, IT administrators are constantly making manual tweaks to thousands of individual computers over time. They install a patch here, change a setting there. Over years, those machines degrade, become slightly different from each other, and become vulnerable.
And a hacker finds the one computer that missed a security update and sneaks in.
Precisely. With NixOS, the entire state of the computer, every application, every security protocol, every user permission, is written as a single master code file using a version control system.
Right.
So if a government laptop is compromised by malware, the IT department doesn't have to spend hours hunting down the virus. They just wipe the machine and execute the code. The system perfectly rebuilds itself from that master recipe in a matter of minutes.
So it guarantees that every single machine across the government is identical, perfectly patched, and completely disposable if attacked.
Exactly. It's mathematically reproducible. That dramatically lowers the maintenance burden compared to Munich's attempt 20 years ago.
And beyond the technical architecture, the policy weight is entirely different here, right? DINUM mandated that every single ministry create a formalized departure strategy from American tech by autumn 2026.
Yes. They aren't just saying use Linux. They rolled out Le Suite, a fully integrated collection of free software for spreadsheets, video conferencing, and document sharing.
So they're providing the actual tools agents need to survive the transition, shifting this from political rhetoric to actionable mandated policy.
Exactly.
Okay, so the government technologists are successfully innovating in their labs. They are building mathematically secure operating systems and AI-managed intent networks. But what happens when these grand systems meet everyday French citizens and local businesses?
Oh.
Because the data in our sources tells a much bumpier story outside of Paris.
The gap between state ambition and public adoption is vast.
It's a chasm. Let's look at the Hubi data breach from January 2026. Hubi is a document exchange platform operated by DINUM. It's designed to be part of the secure, sovereign ecosystem. Yet, intruders managed to exfiltrate 160,000 documents. They exposed the personal data, phone numbers, and social security numbers tied to 70,000 files.
And the mechanism of that breach really highlights the vulnerability of complex systems.
How so?
The underlying operating system of a server might be mathematically secure using NixOS, but Hubi relies on application programming interfaces APIs to let different government departments share documents.
Okay.
If there is a flaw in how that API authenticates a user requesting a file, attackers simply walk through the front door using legitimate channels.
Wow, which completely undermines the trust the state is trying to build. And what makes the Hubi breach so devastating is who it targeted. The exposed data belonged to active Solidarity income recipients.
Yeah.
These are highly vulnerable citizens relying on the state for basic subsistence. If the government's manifesto champions a protective and human-centered digital ecosystem, failing to protect the most marginalized citizens destroys that narrative instantly.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, trust and accessibility are the ultimate bottlenecks for ecological and digital planning.
Yeah.
You cannot forcefully engineer transition without public buy-in.
And looking at the EU Digital Decade report, that buy-in is severely lacking in the broader economy. If you put yourself in the shoes of small business owner in France right now, you are lagging behind your European peers.
Heavily.
Only 47% of French small and medium enterprises have basic digital intensity. Their adoption rates for cloud computing, data analytics, and AI are remarkably poor.
Because a local bakery or a mid-sized logistics firm doesn't care about the geopolitical implications of the U.S. Cloud Act.
Right.
They care about overhead costs, training time, and whether a new tool actually generates revenue.
Add to that the fact that only 64% of French citizens actually feel that digital public services make their lives easier. That is one of the lowest citizen satisfaction scores in the entire European Union.
It's a huge problem.
How can a state lead a digital ecological revolution if businesses refuse to adopt the tools and a third of the population actively dislikes using digital public services?
They can't. The grand vision stalls at the last mile. You can lay down a state-of-the-art green power grid, sovereign fiber optic cables, and unbreakable Linux workstations in government offices.
Yeah.
But if a citizen's identity is stolen because an API wasn't secured, trust evaporates. If small businesses cannot navigate the complexity of sovereign cloud analytics, economic growth halts.
It's all connected.
It is. The transition must be socially seamless, which requires massive, unglamorous investments in basic digital literacy and foolproof user interfaces.
So what does this all mean for you as you navigate your own technical landscape? Whether you are drafting a corporate IT strategy trying to protect your own company's data, or you're just fascinated by the intersection of climate and tech. France is serving as a live, high-stakes test case for the rest of the world. They are actively trying to prove that a nation can forcefully engineer a tech ecosystem that is simultaneously green, highly regulated, and totally sovereign, rather than just letting Silicon Valley dictate the architecture of the future.
And observing this experiment raises a really profound question about the future of global technology. If France succeeds in drawing the borders of this highly regulated, sovereign digital ecosystem, other nations facing the same climate and geopolitical pressures will inevitably follow suit.
Creating a domino effect of digital nationalism.
Exactly. And if every major nation walls off its technology to protect its own data and lower its own carbon footprint, what happens to the global open source community?
That's a great point.
For decades, the internet has thrived on borderless collaboration developers in India, France, and the US, freely sharing code to build better systems.
But if sovereign code becomes classified as a critical national security asset,
we might see the end of global technological collaboration.
Bro.
The pursuit of perfect digital sovereignty could inadvertently kill the open source era, fracturing the internet into a series of isolated, nationalized fortresses where code is hoarded as a weapon rather than shared as a resource.
A walled-off internet where the era of global sharing goes dark to protect national borders. That is a heavy, completely paradigm-shifting thought to leave on. Thank you for joining us as we explored France's massive gamble to rewrite the rules of technology. Keep questioning the tools you use, keep digging into the mechanisms behind the headlines, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.